You are welcome back again to the Gifty O Conversations. It's always a pleasure to have you viewers tune in all the time. Thank you so much for the support and the views and the likes. We really, really appreciate it. Today we have an amazing person. You know, there are some people that when you encounter in life, your life becomes very, very easy. This person is one of them. When I was doing my internship at Vodafone, he was making me keep all my transportation money. So I really, really love this gentleman, and I'm happy to have him here today. Today we have Mr. Kweku Folson with us, and he is a professional network engineer. Currently, he's working at OpenText in Canada as a network engineer, cloud network engineer. So we are going to have a wonderful conversation. Hi, Mr. Folson, you're welcome.
Hi, gift to you. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you and reconnect with you. I mean,
Yes,
we've been in touch, but this is the first time we are speaking like face to face, right?
exactly. It's always over WhatsApp. It's so good to see you. So good to see you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good that we've kept in touch because it's been like about what, 6, 7
Yes,
years, maybe.
yes, 6 years. 6 years.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with Anne Fesu, and she said that I ran away from her. But this time around, it was you who ran away.
No, but did I leave before you or you left before?
Well, you left the country, so you ran away from us.
Okay, all right. If you say that, if you put it that way, yeah, that one will fly.
Yes, we will come to why you ran away later on in the conversation. But yeah, it's so good to have you. It's so good to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much
Okay,
for giving me the opportunity.
you're welcome. It's an honor to have you here. So, each time I am interacting with my guests, I want to know a little bit about their background because I believe that it's the background that helps shape what they are today. So, can you tell us a bit about your background?
Okay, sure, I can do that. So about me, I was born and bred on the University of Ghana campus. I actually lived there for over 30 years of my life, right? So my
Wow.
father was a professor there, and my mom was a professional librarian there. My dad passed away along the way, but my mom stayed there and was there till she retired. So she was with the University of Ghana for about almost 40 years. And so I was born and bred there. And I mean, in terms of schooling, I did all my basic schooling there. And then at the senior high school, I left to Cape Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Cape Coast, I ended up in Kumasi. I wanted to explore as much of Ghana because I'd stayed in one place for so long. So I anything that would take me out of my comfort, I did that. So I studied electrical engineering at Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And after Tech, I mean, while I was a student at Tech, I really discovered network engineering as the field that I wanted to pursue. So it was full force ahead. And I've been doing that ever since I left Tech, which is coming close to about, I lose count, but it's about 14 years now. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. When you said that you lived on UG campus for almost 30 years, I was going to ask whether you went to UG Basic School and then went to Presec and then came to UG. But it's good to
No,
hear that.
yeah, I broke that how do I call it? I broke the norm right after basic school. So I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
no, the world is a big place. There's a world beyond the University of Ghana. So I left and went to explore
yeah.
other places.
It's interesting how you did electrical engineering and became a network engineer. How did that happen?
That's a good question, actually. That's a very good question. So as I always say that I had always had an interest in IT and computers from a young age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as far back as I can remember, in the maybe early 2000s or mid to late 90s when I was just like a kid. I remember we would go to, I mean, that time it wasn't common to have a personal computer at home. So it was only a certain class of people that had, people whose parents had maybe traveled abroad and brought them a computer. So I never had a computer, but I was so interested in computers. my mom used to buy me computer books from an organization that is known as the Ghana Book Trust.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a number of computer books that I was reading, but I had never had access to a computer, right? So there were times where we would go to the British Council Library and there'll be one computer there and they've put a warning sign on it, do not touch. And I'll look at it, I'm like, wow, it would be so cool to one day be able to own a computer. And even when I was young, like JSS, I remember going for like computer conferences at the Accra International Conference Center. There was an organization called iTech. They would have computer fairs and I'll go there, go and look at computers. So I was really fascinated with IT. But when it was time for me to get into university, I didn't really like computer science, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I for some reason I didn't really like programming, or I didn't feel that was what I wanted to do. Although I was in IT, I was interested in IT, right? So at that time too, we didn't have like Bachelor of Science in IT programs like we do now. I think even the University of Ghana has one.
Yeah.
So then it was like, oh, well, we've heard that electrical, there's some IT there. So they deceived me to go and do electrical engineering, and I got into it and I received a rude shock. I was like, what? This is not what I signed up for, right? So it was a bit of a, how do I say, a diversion, right? At a point, I actually wanted to switch from electrical to do computer engineering. But I talked to people, they gave me counseling. They were like, you know what, you can still do your IT if you just remain with the electrical engineering. So I stuck with it. But I knew that my interest wasn't in like electrical engineering right from the get.
Wow. So after the electrical engineering course, of course, I'm assuming you didn't get any networking experience. So from after school to, let's say, your first networking job, what was the transition like?
So interestingly enough, like I knew I wanted to do IT. First year, I got into electrical engineering. I knew that, no, this is not what I really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So in second year, some guys who were working at the Network Operations Center in KNUS to organize the seminar.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to talk to us about opportunities with Cisco technologies. Now, Cisco is like the #1 networking company in the world. So they came to tell us about Cisco networking. They came to talk about the CCNA exam, the Cisco Certified Network. And when they were talking, my eyes just opened wide. I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. I was like, this is it. This is it for me.
Yeah.
It just grabbed my attention. I was like, this is so cool. It's not programming, it's networking, it's like hands-on. So right from second year, I was like, this is what I want to do. So I had started, and they had shared some material for us to use in the class. But this is like 2004, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Pen drives weren't so common. I remember I had a pen drive, I think it was maybe 8 megabytes capacity.
Wow.
So they shared the information on DVDs. There were 10 DVDs. And all those DVDs, the people who got them hoarded them. The DVDs disappeared. I don't know where they passed, so I wasn't able to get access to the material. But I tried to like keep my interest in it. And then in third year, we did one course on computer networking. I was like, yes, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I kind of like started charting my path right from then.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to take the entry-level Cisco Certified Network Associate. So 2 weeks after graduation, I started studying for the CCNA exam. So we finished school in May, graduated in June, started studying for it. By October, I had written and gotten my CCNA even before national service.
Wow.
So, yes. So while we were in school, final year, two gentlemen had come from the Bank of Ghana to organize like a networking boot camp for like 2 weekends on campus. So I'd also signed up for that. And they told us that, hey, if you can get your CCNA, like there are opportunities for you. We can get you placement into national service. So I was fired up. And that motivated me to finish the CCNA by October. They passed me my resume on to an internet service provider, Africa Online. I went there for interviews. I was accepted to do my national service, and I started my networking journey right from national service. And it's interesting, when I got even into the company, there were people there, I think literally maybe only the senior technical manager had her CCNA. None of the other techs had their CCNA, right? So it was like, hey, who is this national service boy who has come? He has a CCNA. And the tech manager was like, oh, you have a CCNA? Okay, so you can do this. You can do this. I said, yes, I can do it. Then she said, okay, Kweku, do this. Then I'll do it. Then she give me another opportunity. Wow, okay, do this. Then I'll do it. So it was like a huge blessing because it opened up opportunities for me. as a national service, they were sending me. They sent me to Nigeria to do some work. They sent me to Liberia to do some work when there were people who had been in the company for many years before I joined, but they weren't given that opportunity.
Really?
Yes, yes.
Wow. Wow. So it was like you knew what you wanted and you just went for it.
Yes, once I discovered that this is what I wanted to do, I just went out for it, and I was like, full vim, as we would say.
Yeah, yeah. Now, let me ask you this. To be a national service personnel who you meet people there at the workplace who probably have worked there for years. And now it looks like you are the one being given, you are taking their shine, sort of. How did you handle that? Did you face any problems?
That's a good question. And actually, I don't think I did. It was because that environment was like boys. A lot of us were
Mm,
all like young guys who were, fresh out of school. Some people had come out of school, had been working in the company for a long time, but it was more or less like a very cordial environment.
yeah.
So it was more or less some of the people were even happy to pass off the work to me. So when a
I
customer
see.
calls and it's like some issue, they're like, Charlie, pass it over to the national service boy. Let him do it. And at that time, I was trying to build my experience, so I was very happy to take on any work.
Mhm.
So I didn't have any issues. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good attitude. Most people would feel that, oh, they are just giving me all the work because I'm national service personnel. But it's a good thing to have the mentality that I am gaining experience.
Oh yes, I was like, bring it on, and so and I was studying a lot. Like at that point in my life and career, I was like every day I must learn something. So that time, as our office was around Kwame Nkrumah Circle, GCB Towers. I don't know if it's still there, but
Mhm.
and I used to come by public transport. So normally after work, if you close at 5 and you go to like Circle to look for a trotro, there'll be a very long queue. So I'll just
Yeah.
stay at work till about maybe 7:38, just studying, and then I'll leave, go to Circle when there's no queue, jump into a trotro and get home. So yeah, those were some long days. I even have some pictures my colleagues took of me, like I'd fallen asleep in the office.
Wow. Oh, if
Yeah,
I
those were
knew that, if
exciting times.
I knew that, I would have taken that from you to show our viewers.
Oh, yes. Maybe I'll give it to you.
Definitely, definitely. So, would you say you were a workaholic?
Say I was a workaholic because I'm a fresh graduate. I don't have a family. I didn't
Mm,
even have a girlfriend or anything. It was just me. And I knew that this was the path for me. So I have
mhm.
to give it my best shot. So I didn't mind. Like I didn't mind working long hours as long as I was enjoying the work that I was doing, right? I mean, sometimes my family would be concerned about the time that I was getting home because I'll get to maybe like 10,
Mhm,
11 p.m. and be
mhm.
like, yeah, it's late. But I was more than happy to do all the work that I could. And I mean, like, yeah, I have lots of exciting stories from back then. If I talk about the stories, we can sit on this the whole day because so many interesting things happened.
Well, so one question I've been wanting to ask is for network engineers. I
Yeah.
am not a network engineer. I have very little experience, just the small configurations of routers. But what are some of the different aspects of network engineering that if I'm a graduate, I can focus my attention on? Because network engineering is broad.
That's true, and that's a good question. Now, the thing about what I really like about network engineering is that it's a very versatile career which can fit you in several different industries, right?
Mhm.
So you can fit in like the corporate or what we call the enterprise. So banks, large enterprise, financial institutions, educational institutions, like any company that uses computers and they access applications has a network and would have need for a network engineer. I mean, you can work on the what we call the service provider side. So either an internet service provider, you can work with a telecom company. So I mean, if you look at my career, I started working at an internet service provider.
Mhm.
I moved to the bank. I worked in two banks. Then I moved to telco. right? So I was able to work in all these places doing networking. So as a graduate, networking is important that you understand the basics because most of these basics will translate into whatever industry that you find yourself in. But it's good to get the certification early because that is the good thing about the certification that it is globally recognized, right?
Yeah.
So the CCNA that I took in Ghana is the same CCNA someone sitting in America would take, is the same CCNA someone sitting in Canada or Mexico or Europe or wherever would take. So it's globally acknowledged and recognized. So the good thing as for a fresh graduate is that it demonstrates a certain level of competence. And it demonstrates that you have the foundational base level knowledge to be able to do an entry level network engineering work, right? And that is the advantage that it gave me, that right when I entered the office on day one, they knew that this guy knows his stuff. So it's a good way for fresh graduates to establish themselves and to demonstrate that they have the necessary skills to thrive in a particular area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I'm working in a bank or I'm working in a telco, let's take a telco for instance. Are there different subsets of networking that you can do?
Yeah. So, and when I joined the telco, I was like, wow, this is like networking is really key to a telco functioning exactly as it should. Because a lot of the technology that is used in the telco is based on IP, or what is known as the internet protocol, right? So IP addresses, like how information moves from the end user subscriber to like a phone call. When a phone call is made, it has to get into the radio access network. There is some IP there. They has to enter into like the switching system. It has to enter into the core network, and it's all IP based. And IP is what network engineers that is what we eat for for breakfast. So there are different areas. You see, in the telco, you have different areas. You can choose to work in like maybe not to get too technical, but like PS core, like the packet switch core.
Mm-hmm.
The guys who handle like a 3G data, or you can work in the CS core, the guys who handle the voice data, right? You can work in the enterprise. That's the guys who are supplying interconnectivity for large companies and their offices, right? You can be in cybersecurity, which is also securing like the flow of information through the network systems of the telco. You can be with like architecture and engineering, where you are kind of looking at the high level architecture and design and looking at how you can make the network operate as efficiently and as robustly as possible. So all these areas, my role in the telco, I realized that I was dealing with all these teams because my role as an IP, design specialist was key to anything that they were doing. If they wanted to introduce a new node, if they wanted to introduce a new service, they needed to talk to the network planners so that we could see how we could make their systems operate as they wanted it to. So there are a lot of areas that you can, focus on if you find yourself within one of these industries.
Okay, thank you for throwing light on that. I saw one photo, and it was a couple of network engineers kneeling in front of routers, praying. Yes, the rack, and they were praying because it was a long weekend with a holiday on Monday, praying that the network will not go down. So we have an impression that as for a network engineer, if something goes down, you are the first person they will call. Is it that hectic?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are times and seasons. The thing is, if you have a well architected and a well built network, you would not have that many issues often. But then every once in a while, like things break, right? And you have to fix. And as you rightly said, a lot of the times when something goes wrong, the first point of blame is the network. If someone's application is not working, someone is not able to access some resource, it's the network. So that one is a fight that as a network engineer, that you would have to be fighting every day. But I mean, yes, things can go down and cause a lot of issues. Like in my personal work recently, within the last 2 weeks, we've had like two major issues, right? And when it happens, it's like all hands on deck. You can be called at any time, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., because I mean, for the kind of work that I do, I support global customers. So when I'm sleeping in Canada, someone in Asia is at work, right? So if something happens, it affects them and you'll be called upon to fix it. So I mean, you kind of get to know that that is how the work is. It's not always like that. There are times where I mean I can go weeks and months and nothing critical has happened. So it just comes with the work, right? Just like even if you're a doctor, you can be called into the emergency room at any time for something that just happened out of the blue, right? But I mean, technology is becoming better and it's evolving to the place where we can minimize some of these and we have a lot more stable systems. I mean, when I started out at the national service, doing my national service, when we were using like wireless internet access, oh my goodness, it's like the issues were daily, every day there's a link that is going down, there's a customer that is having issues. But today we have fiber all over the place and fiber is reliable. So I mean, there are some customers that they have not had an issue for like 8 years. Like their devices are just running, their circuits are just running. They haven't had any issue at all. So yeah, as technology improves and things become better, we also see more stability and more predictability in the way things operate. And that translates to like, higher uptimes and fewer incidents that cause, major disruptions. Yeah.
True, true. It can be really frustrating when your network goes down. From the customer end, you just get angry and you want to vent your anger on the closest person. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I know.
Okay, let's talk about the money because I can't let you go without talking about the money. How
Yes.
lucrative is the role of a network engineer? How do you get paid? How much do you get paid?
Right. And that's one of the reasons why, I mean, when we talk about one of the major differences between living in Ghana and then moving to Canada, you realize that the level of compensation for the same kind of work is vastly different, right? So for the same work that I was doing in Ghana and earning, how much was even my pay in Ghana? I don't remember, maybe earning like 3,000 cedis a month, right? I will be in Canada, and for that same, I can be earning $5,000, right? Which is like a huge difference.
Yeah.
And also because the premium that is put on technology here is very high. And so they know that technology is the foundation that runs their business. So we have to pay our technology guys well because there's a lot of competition in the market too, right? Everybody wants to deploy technology. So everybody wants the best people to handle their technology. So there's a lot of competition. So you either pay your guys well or someone else will pay them well and they will leave your company. So, I mean, in terms of the reward, I would say that, yeah, it is rewarding, especially if you know your stuff well. And the more experience that you have too, right? So like more experience the longer you gather experience and the better you know your stuff, it translates into how well you get compensated. So I mean, I would say that a lot of people sometimes they just want to enter IT for the money. But IT, although it can be financially rewarding, is not easy. You need to be constantly learning and willing to upgrade yourself. And like IT is broad, right? So even in network engineering, there are so many things that I don't know that I am still learning today, and which is also a sacrifice. So I mean, IT is not like an easy path to riches. You have to make a lot of sacrifices. If I talk about some of the sacrifices that I've made to get some of the certifications that I've made, you won't believe it, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to take that risk, right? And you will see the reward. They say that the higher the risk, the higher the reward, right? So I think that is true for IT as well, and specifically for network engineering.
Wow. Now that you're talking about the things that you had to go through to get some of your certifications, let's talk about some of the things required by employers when they are looking for network engineers. What do they look for? So you can tell us that, and then also tell us about the recruitment process for network engineers?
Right. Okay. So I mean, requirements. Look, the thing is, there was one Indonesian gentleman that I used to look up to early in my days of network engineering, Himawan, and he had a quote. He said, "Know what you don't know." Right? Know what you don't know. Like you must know your stuff cold. You must know it well enough that you should be woken up from bed and asked the question, or given a situation, and you should be able to like figure it out. I mean, recently there was a customer having an issue and he had sent some documentation of how his network was set up. And I looked at it, and within 5 minutes, I was able to like understand what's going on. I thought to myself, I said, wow, that's really cool. But then I said, it's taken years of experience to get to that level where within 5 minutes I can figure out what's happening and tell them that, hey, this is what is happening. This needs to go here. This needs to be done here. It takes time to build that. And as I said, certification is one of the key ways that employers use to determine your level of expertise. And certifications are not cheap, right? And sometimes because of the way our economy, let's say maybe the economy in Ghana works, when I wrote my CCNA in 2009, it was $250 US dollars.
Wow.
At that time, that was probably about at that time we had done the currency conversion. So I think it was about maybe 700 or 600 cedis. But today, $250 is about, I don't know, maybe 3,000 cedis.
Yes.
Yeah, 3,000 cedis. So imagine taking 3,000 cedis just to go and write an exam. And it's possible that you cannot pass. You would have to write it again. Right? So it's an investment that you are making. I was talking about some of the investments that I made. So I have what is known as the CCIE. The CCIE is like the expert level certification when it comes to like Cisco networking. The CCIE in total, it cost me about $13,000 to get. And this is something that I did in Ghana. I wasn't in Canada when I did the CCIE. So imagine investing $13,000 to get a certification in Ghana. So, I mean, a lot of my savings and things went into paying for the exam. I had to write it twice, right? And that exam cannot be written in Africa. The nearest location is Dubai. So I had to travel to Dubai twice to take that exam. And so you can imagine airfare, hotel, visa, pay for the exam and everything. I had to do it twice. So you can just imagine, right?
That's a lot of sacrifice. Wow.
Yes. And you know what I did? It got to a time, I remember most of the things that I was able to do was when maybe I got like a bonus from work or some bulk money from work, then I'll put it into it. So I remember, I think maybe I was working in the bank at that time. I got my bonus and then I ordered for like a whole rack of network equipment from the US. My sister bought it for me and then she put it in a car that someone was shipping and they shipped it to me. So I had like a whole lab sitting in my room that I was using to practice. And I can share pictures of that with you to also show the viewers. So I mean, those were, and I remember that thing cost me like, that kit cost me like $3,000, right? I just bought it because I was like, wow, I need this to prepare for my exams. So yeah.
That's really interesting. It's inspiring to find someone who knows what they want and is willing to put in the sacrifice to get what they want.
Yeah.
Saying $3,000, someone in the US may think it's small, but in Ghana here, $3,000 is a lot of money. That's someone's annual salary.
Annual salary, yeah, yeah. So I mean, back then the exchange rate wasn't as bad as it is today, but it was still it was the Ghana CD has been one to $1 only when we did the redenomination of our currency, right?
Exactly. Mr. Folson, please don't let
so
us
since
go
then
there.
It's just been going up.
I don't want.
So I mean, for someone starting today, the barrier to entry would be much, much more higher for them, right? And even maybe out of reach. But at that time, I had to make those sacrifices to be able to, get some of these certifications. And to think about it, I think most of my certifications I did in Ghana, right? Most of them I did it while I was in Ghana. So you can just imagine, and I have quite a number of them. If I start to list, sometimes I even forget. It's quite a number of them. And all of them I had to be paying out of pockets and Yeah, there were some times where my employer would maybe reimburse me, but then yeah, you have to pass the exam. If you don't pass, there have been times where I have not passed the exams that I've taken and I had to go back and take it again. And
Mm-hmm.
that had to be my cost that I had to bear. So yeah, there are definitely sacrifices. That is why I say that just don't rush into IT because you've heard there's money into it, but you should really consider the whole, the cost and
Yeah.
whether you have that passion and that desire to actually make progress and get into it to become as good as you would expect to be able to reward it accordingly for. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I am sure that several young people who want to go into networking will be taking some notes from you. Thank you so much for sharing. One last question.
Let,
Uh-huh.
let me just say that, I mean, these days we have a lot of new technologies that are coming out. We have the cloud, we have data analysis, we have cybersecurity, we have what do you have? Scrum and project management and all those things. Those are all
Yeah.
good. But the thing is that you find a lot of people getting into those areas, so there's a lot of competition. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but there are still opportunities in networking. I mean, right now it's actually kind of difficult to find good network engineers because all of them are employed, and it's like everybody, the generation of today are going into like these, Internet of Things, these, should I say, new technology. So you
Yeah.
find few people, not as many people getting into like computer networking.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to encourage anyone out there that hey, there are a lot of jobs in computer networking. So I mean, and think globally. Don't only think about Ghana. I had a global mindset, and I mean, by the grace of God, today I'm in Canada. So you never know where pursuing this skill, the doors that it can open for you. Yes, you asked about the interview process, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just remembered that. So I mean, in a typical the skills that you need, apart from your technical skills, you also need good soft skills or good communication skills. You should be able to talk and communicate and explain things to employers, and that's one thing that they are looking for. So technical skills and good communication skills. There are some companies that, yeah, I mean, every company has different interviews. Some companies, the larger the company, sometimes the more stages you have to go through. For example, a company like Amazon Web Services. I
Mm-hmm.
interviewed with Amazon Web Service, and in total, I might have done maybe about 7 or 8 interviews. And the last one was on site in Cape Town. So they flew me to Cape Town to conduct a whole day interview, about 5 interviews, each one about an hour and a half each. It was like pretty intense, right?
Wow.
So it differs. But I mean, the larger the company, if you get into like Google, Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, Microsoft, I can bet you that their interviews will be like really tough and really tasking. You would have to do a lot of hands-on work and demonstrate that you actually know your stuff as well as your soft skills as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. One last question. We have about a minute to go. But what are some of the mistakes that you made in your career that you think other people should know and avoid?
Okay. I mean, I don't think I made too many mistakes, but what I'll say that some opportunities that I think I should have taken greater advantage of is to participate in the broader networking community in Africa. So in
Mm-hmm.
Africa, there's something known as AFNOG, and I mean each region has it. So it's African Network Operators Group. We have NANOG, North American Network Operations Group. So like each region has their group, and those people are the ones who do a lot of the standards development.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of education and training and kind of like bringing the larger network community together. And that's something that I didn't participate in that I really wish I'd started early because it would have given me opportunities to like travel over the world, meet
Yeah.
people, policymakers, meet like the people who like literally invented the internet. The
Mm-hmm.
people who are at
Mm-hmm.
the forefront of these technologies, give me exposure to them and to those communities, which I mean, it goes a long way to enrich your career. So that's one thing that I'll tell anyone who's coming up now, that don't just be in your company's head or in your head, in your company, focusing on only what your company does. Look at the broader networking of community out there, look at opportunities out there. And I mean, like, yeah, every year there's like an AFNOG meeting in one country in Africa, and people travel, they go and teach and have lectures. Those are all opportunities that I didn't really take advantage of that I really wish I had. And I know people who got into it and it's like they had so many opportunities to travel and do so many interesting things and meet with so many interesting people. So it's that would have been great to have benefited from that as well. Yeah.
Mr. Folson, thank you
You
so
too.
much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to see your face and then to learn about your experience. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on too.
Are you comfortable with me sharing your LinkedIn profile in the description so that
Yes.
people can
Oh,
connect?
sure.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. We would have
Go ahead.
another conversation sometime, but then we would discuss that and then bring another conversation to our viewers. But thank you for making the time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me and all the best.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, and click the notification bell to be notified of our next video. Until then, please make sure you have at least one good conversation this week.